The movie, based on true events, begins in 1942. A German cruiser stops a Swedish fishing boat at sea for inspection. While the soldiers search the ship to no avail, an officer gives the order to spill fuel and burn the ship. He doesn't like the cocky Swedish sailors, one of whom looks like the Hulk, and another with a Salvador Dali mustache and a Sultan Suleiman beard. Meanwhile, one of the sailors finds a stash in the hold. An armed squad member is hiding there. He opens fire and kills the Nazi. The fishermen on deck also join the fight. They methodically destroy the enemy in interesting ways and with hidden firearms. When the number of living Nazis is down to 0, the fishermen greet the remaining ones on the cruiser. Unable to stand such insolence, the Germans prepare a cannon. At this time, a diver appears next to the Swedish boat, a submariner following a secret order. After 2 shots, the cruiser explodes. Explosives planted by the saboteur have gone off. The story moves back 25 days. British General Gubbins, with the covert support of Prime Minister Churchill, is preparing a secret sabotage operation. The objective of the operation is to deprive Nazi Germany of ground support for its submarine fleet, so the U-boats will no longer be a nightmare for the American fleet in the Atlantic. Then the Allies can land in Europe. For this purpose, Gubbins invites agents Marjorie Stewart and Richard Herron. They travel to the island of Fernando Po, where the Italian freighter the Duchess carries fuel for the submarines. To assist them, General summons a prisoner, Major Gus March Phillips. During the briefing, he carefully stuffs his pockets with things he likes. He is particularly interested in cigars and a lighter. Yes, and of course the general's coat. He also says he needs a solid team, practically the Justice League. It includes fisherman Henry Hayes, bomber Freddie Alvarez, and former hunter, Swedish Robin Hood, Anders Lassen. Gus also needs scout Jeffrey Appleyard, who is languishing in German captivity. His release is the first step in the plan. That's why they send the ship to the Nazi-controlled Canary Islands. Agents Stewart and Herron travel by train across Africa to Cameroon, and from there they will travel to the island of Fernando Po. They don't get bored in the process. A brigade of Nazi officers is traveling along with them. With the help of an ingenious device and a woman's charm, Stewart steals a suitcase with secret information from the Nazis. She is almost exposed by a German officer, but is saved in time by Herron. Together they lock themselves in a compartment to review the documents and transmit the encryption to British headquarters. Data confirms that the Duchess is preparing to transport 5,000 tons of diesel fuel for submarines. After learning what is needed, Stewart carefully returns the Nazi briefcase to its place, as if nothing had happened, and Gus's squad lands on the island where Appleyard is being held. While they scout out the location of the posts, Lassen amuses himself by shooting patrolmen with an archery bow. This skill comes in handy when the squad embarks on a rescue mission. Lassen silently removes the guards from the towers. After cutting through the wire fence, the saboteurs enter the base. Separated, they begin a methodical extermination of the Nazis living here, using machine guns with silencers. Those who have not yet caught a bullet skillfully pretend that they do not hear anything, neither muffled shots nor the rumble of falling bodies. Nearby, an armored car rumbles cautiously, its engine muffling the sound of gunfire. Alvarez grabs the anti-aircraft gun. He uses it to shoot up the building, where some of the Nazis are being briefed. Gus, wearing a fancy Hugo Boss raincoat along with Hayes, finishes the surviving Nazis. Lassen throws grenades through the loopholes into the concrete bunker. Then he goes inside to put a cross on those who like to draw crosses on vehicles. After the scuffle, he notices a chained Appleyard, whom the Nazis are carefully energizing with electricity by attaching plugs to his nipples. The squad takes Appleyard with them and leaves the base, booby-trapping it for last. Stewart and Herron arrive in Fernando Po, where the girl meets the main object of her mission, SS Commander Heinrich Luhr. Girl offers Luhr a cargo deal, but he politely declines. He already has all the arrangements he needs. Still, he wouldn't mind considering her proposal in a more private setting. At the officers' party, for example. As she leaves, Stewart peeks through the window into the next room, where she sees the hanging black prisoner of Luhr. An SS man tortured her before they arrived. At the bar, Herron talks to the harbor master. A drunken man informs him that the ship will sail early. After learning that the Duchess is sailing 3 days ahead of schedule, Stewart and Herron telegraph this to headquarters. However, the encryption is intercepted by General Gubbins' colleagues. Not all of them agree that it is necessary to conduct covert operations on foreign territory, thus complicating an already complicated political situation. As the team's boat passes the coast of Africa on its way to Fernando Po, it is stopped by a British warship. The admiral, aware of the covert operation, gives a direct order to stop the sabotage and board the warship. Conversation is interrupted by the appearance of a German submarine. The British throws deep-sea mines and retreat, leaving the fishing boat and crew alone. There's still time before the Duchess sets sail, and Herron makes good use of it by luring Kambili Kalu, the prince of the island of Fernando Po, to his side. British agents shower him with gifts, including not only fruit, but also shipments of weapons. Kalu is also impressed by Stuart's marksmanship. He finally agrees to provide his men to reinforce the covert operation. Soon, the saboteurs are teaming up with Kalu's men and Heron on the open sea, transferring weapons and explosives from ship to ship. The operation moves to the next phase. Heron prepares explosives and secretly mines power generators. He is captured by a German patrol, resulting in the deaths of Nazis at his hands. Stuart dresses up as Cleopatra for the officers' party, and Heinrich Löhr is asked to dress up as Caesar. The SS man refuses at first, but after falling under the girl's imperious charm, he is forced to agree. In the evening, Gus's squad awaits the order to begin the operation. Löhr and Stuart arrive at the officers' party. At the same time, ordinary soldiers and sailors are having fun at a separate event. When the captain of the Duchess arrives at the masquerade ball, Stuart learns that the ship has been reinforced with extra armor. This fact puts the operation in jeopardy. There may not be enough explosives to blow it up. Stuart shares the information with Heron, who rushes ashore to warn the saboteurs with light signals. Gus decides to report the changed circumstances to General Gubbins. But during the conversation, the higher-ups intervene and again order the saboteur to stop the unauthorized operation. Squad decides what to do next. Appleyard suggests a new plan. If we can't blow up the ship, we'll have to steal it. To do so, they must steal a tugboat, defeat the ship's guards, and blow up the anchor chain just before the ship sails. For lack of better alternatives, they set out to execute this plan. Once separated, the saboteurs embark on a new mission. Gus and Hayes reach the harbor and push forward with deadly force, destroying the German guards in the harbor. Alvarez mines a fuel depot to bleed the Nazi transports dry. When finished, he carefully chains the hangar gate, where German soldiers and sailors are partying. Lassen, in a dinghy, gets to the anchor chain and hangs explosives on it. Appleyard, with Kalu's men, sails to the Duchess and boards it, shooting the Nazis who disagree with him. Finished on deck, they head downstairs, carefully making their way through the corridors to the crew quarters. Lassen finishes with an anchor and climbs up next, helping to clear the guard with the bow. Appleyard stumbles over to the crew and shuts the door in their faces, but Lassen is already coming up. After shooting all the arrows, he remembers the game, Dead by Daylight, as the seasoned huntress Anna picks up an axe and goes hardcore. Satisfied that the Nazis are gone, Appleyard opens the door and lets a colleague out. Gus and Hayes take over the tugboat and kill the guards. Gus allows only one young man to jump overboard alive. He signals to the Duchess that everything is ready. Then the plan enters its final phase. As the saboteurs pull up a tugboat and tie the freighter to it, the explosives on the anchor chain are activated. Explosion is heard by the partygoers, but it's too late. The ship is moving toward the harbor exit. A warehouse filled with flammable materials and fuel explodes. Despite the chaos and panic, the soldiers run to the guns to stop the hijackers. They are shot down by ship-mounted machine guns. Kalu's men also fire back with mortars. And the Coast Guard fires artillery, but misses every time. Hayes is wounded. Heinrich Löhr arrives on the scene dressed as Caesar. Previously, he suspected that Stuart was Jewish, so he wasn't too surprised to see the unpleasant incident unfold right in front of him. The harbor master and the captain of the Duchess are not happy about the sabotage. They loudly express their outrage. Irritated SS man kills them. Next, the guards bring in a captive Stuart. Löhr approaches the car and threatens to torture her for her part in the operation, but the girl is not confused and shoots him in the forehead with her hidden pistol. And the guards were eliminated by Heron, who realized in time that his partner was in trouble. After that, they leave. Gus gives his team one last order: to contact the British fleet and hand over the trophy ship. When the saboteurs encounter the British fleet in the afternoon, they are amicably taken into custody for violating a direct order. Only Prince Fernando Po, Kalu, escapes such a fate. After all, he is a loyal subject of the crown and does not obey the admiral's orders. Gus says goodbye to him and goes back to prison, where General Gubbins has taken him for this operation. In London, all the saboteurs are lined up. Prime Minister Churchill himself comes out to them. He gives a lecture on how their whole country was built on order, discipline, and subordination, things they have trampled on with their actions. But thanks to this, the actions of the German submarines were sabotaged and the first American troops arrived on the island. On Churchill's orders, the handcuffs are removed from the detainees, and by way of apology, the guards place platters of goodies on the table. From now on, Gus's squad works for him personally, for Prime Minister Churchill. The movie ends with a piece of historical reference about the actual participants in the little under-decorated operation. The information contains few interesting facts, except that Gus himself became the prototype for a secret agent, known as Bond, James Bond,